Talk with the executive director of America First Works, Ashley Hayek. Ashley, welcome back to Victory.
Thanks for having me.
Now, the state of Alabama has made it illegal for men pretending to be women to compete in sports or use women's restrooms and locker rooms. Do you ever think it would take a law like this to keep men out of women's sports and facilities?
You know, I grew up at a time when women were told to shatter glass ceilings and that we had an opportunity to enter the workforce and experience equality. And now you have the same group of women, those feminists that they like to call themselves, that are literally fighting for men to compete against women in women's sports. And it makes no sense to me. Fortunately, 20 states so far have passed legislation to protect women's sports and allow women to fulfill their greatest potential in their sport, whether it's, you know, NCAA swimming or track or any other sport that they choose to participate in. Biological, I think the quote that we heard earlier was, biology is not bigotry, and that's a fact. And I hope that we continue to raise those voices of people who are standing up for legislation like Governor Ivey's.
Yeah, that's a great line. I can see T-shirts with that on it somewhere.
For sure.
Kevin McCarthy's claiming a victory for conservatives in the House passing the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Interesting name. Over in the Senate, Mike Lee had a different take. Here it is.
So if you're tempted to vote for this, perhaps taking some comfort in the idea that this is going to rein in regulatory excesses, please look elsewhere for comfort. It does not exist here. While Republicans claim that this is a big victory for Republicans, meanwhile, the Democrats are doing everything they can to hide their excitement over this deal.
Representative Thomas Massey's the Republican swing vote who got the deal to the floor for a vote, said if they didn't take it, the Democrat-controlled Senate would have crafted a bill with even more spending. So how does your organization, America First Policy Institute, rate this legislation?
So America First Policy Institute put out a debt ceiling primer in February of this year with a number of recommendations of what could be done in order to claw back the spending, reduce the debt, reduce the deficit. Unfortunately, what was passed is a very far cry from what we originally proposed. I think the next step is to look forward at appropriations, specifically at what we can do with the funding for those IRS agents. And that's really where I think Republicans have an opportunity to, again, stop the spending. Ultimately, what we wanted to see was work requirements for people who receive federal benefits to recoup the COVID spending. We only got half of that. And again, I think the IRS agents is going to be absolutely critical.
I agree with you. I really like your organization because you put the American people first, not the American government first. There's a great fact sheet. I got it right here in my hand on your website entitled Fatherhood and Crime. You show fathers are absent. 80% of single-parent homes are 4 times more likely to live in poverty than for married couple families. And you can look at prison rates, juvenile delinquency, a lot of things. Do you think there's a correlation between no fathers and the crime and delinquency we see in the community?
100%. And there's been such an attack on the nuclear family and such an attack on fathers that we are absolutely committed to making sure that we restore the patriarch and restore fathers as a part of the nuclear family. As a result of the lack of fathers in the home, you see a higher usage of guns, of drugs, of mental health issues. And so having a stable 2-parent home will be successful not just for children, but for our society as a whole.
I believe our first block of news proved that. 3 of the 7 stories had to do with trans, 1 had to do with teen violence. Ashley, has America First Works taken a position on the impeachment of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton?
Yes, absolutely. America First stands with Ken Paxton. You know, what was so disappointing was the people of Texas, they wanted to see school choice. They wanted to see the CCP from purchasing American or Texas ag land. They had all of this legislation that they wanted to see in this legislative session, and instead, the House voted on an impeachment for Ken Paxton, and that was really a disgrace for the people of Texas.
Yeah, now everything's derailed. America First Policy is the group, a lot of great information, a lot of great research if you're writing a research paper. Ashley, thank you so much. Back to you in just a moment.
Thank you.
Mike?
Greg.